Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Questions Podcast Show. My name is Michael Newmeyer, and I am lucky enough to have the wonderful guest, writer-director, Daren Taylor. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, man. How you doing?
Dude, good, good. Thank you so much for coming, man. Appreciate this. Thank you for taking the time out of your day. I know you're a busy guy.
My pleasure, man. Any chance I get to talk, I'll take it.
Dude, I mean, that's the whole reason I started this podcast, just so I could hear myself talk.
Keep it real. I like it. I like it.
It. So, okay. I mean, the main thing that we wanted to discuss and get down and just like dissect and play with all the angles and the what ifs, you know, the questioning aspect of it is like, I guess this is my first political route we're going. Okay. And we're going to talk about, the election, just kind of the craziness around it. Kind of, what do we see? What do we don't see? Maybe whys, the what ifs, the who, when, where's, I would say even would be fun to discuss like who could have done this or could have done better, or, failures, possible successes unrecorded, et cetera. But, let's fire away. Let's get going.
Let's jump in. So it just feels like right now, because of we're 3 weeks away from the election, it just becomes this pressure cooker. But in America, our election cycle is so long. People start campaigning, 2 years before the election actually happens. So I feel like a lot of people are probably fatigued. I'm like a political junkie though. I like it. I'm interested in the minutia of how the country works, the government works, all that stuff is really, if I had a different life, I think I would have gone into sociology, right? I love, or anthropology, right? I love the study of people and cultures. I think that's what took me into what I like about writing and world building, because it's about people. I get down. I listen to podcasts. I read newspapers. As much as I can get my hands on, I try to just gobble up because it's fascinating to me.
Ah, okay. I mean, I'm actually writing a political script right now that I've been slowly working on and whatnot.
Hey, cool.
I'm gonna have to get you to check that out once I get further into it.
Have you always did you grow up in a political family? Was voting and did your parents and family talk about that kind of stuff?
Not a ton. My dad's very private about that stuff till now. He starts talking. My dad's 80, so now he's kind of at the age where he doesn't give a shit, and he'll just state it. But he doesn't have Facebook, Instagram, so he's just stating it to people around him that he trusts and this and that. But my mom was a little more vocal. I probably didn't start getting into politics till I started traveling the world and seeing how things are done in different countries and comparing to here and whatnot. And, is America the best? I've seen some other countries do certain aspects better than that. We fail in certain places, they fail in certain places. It's a up and down of success and failures. But I feel like here, I've spent a lot of time in Europe and then a little bit in Japan in comparison, seeing politics and stuff there. But America is it's a giant reality show, which perfectly makes sense by who our current president is. He is the king of reality, he was doing it before social media. He was doing it before any of that. So no wonder he's good at this game.
Yeah, it's his game. How to build a brand and to build a name and to self-promote. He is the king of that. But I feel like politics is always did you ever run for student council in high school or middle school or anything like that?
No, I was big on sports. I did do a little bit of debate and whatnot, but never did. And which is fun for this because we used to debate both sides. It could be kicking butt on one side, then all of a sudden the teacher would be like, "Okay, Michael, go to the other side." And now I have to defeat all my own arguments, and stuff like that. But no, never did student council or treasury kind of stuff, anything like that.
I feel like any of that stuff it's a popularity contest, right? The presidential election or any election is just a popular. Because how much do you really know what a person's going to do once they get elected? You hope that their ideas and morals fit in with what you want, but you have no idea. And then you got to wait, however long the election is, 2 years, 4 years, before you can make another decision on it. So I don't know. It's whoever brands themselves in the best light for the time.
Oh, and zero guarantees. They have zero guarantees. There's no repercussions for not following through with even a certain amount of what they promised, which is crazy to me.
Right. That's representational government, though. We elect them in and we hope that they do what we want. And when the election comes back up, we can vote them out. So I feel like, 2016, a lot of people, there's a lot of people that didn't vote, right? Turnout was lower than it was in 2012 or 2008. So I think this year we're going to have a massive turnaround because I feel like a lot of people didn't vote in 2016.
I think a
Or
lot of people are going to get out there, whether good, bad, whatever. I think just the media, everybody is, which is good. I think everybody, should, if you believe that your vote matters and counts and this and whatnot, like get out there, vote, because it's definitely our right to do and not to do, but it's, it, you can't not, I don't know, not vote for a Jillian your whole life and then complain,
yeah, well,
and bitch and whatnot.
it affects so much. Like, have you seen the like California like book of things? It's not just the presidential election. It's like this massive thing.
Oh,
And
provisions left and right, like all kinds of stuff. And it's, how do you know that book? Eventually you're just kind of guessing, like just going C down your whole exam, being like ding, 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 and hoping you get a passing grade at some certain point.
before COVID, we used to have, we love the idea of having like an election party, not even an election party, like we'll go through the book, we'll have cocktails, we'll have snacks, and just, all right, somebody read out this provision. What do we think? What do we know about it? And like that way, it kind of makes it not as, because it feels like an exam that you're studying for.
So wait, that was something you did? You had like a dinner party kind of deal and just like everybody kind of chatted and went over it?
Any excuse we have to have food and cocktails, my wife and I will take it.
She's a mean cook. I gotta admit, I check her out. I mean, on Instagram, I tried a couple of things, and gosh, she slays it, dude. You're a lucky man.
I know this. I married well. I know this for a fact, and I eat so well. So yeah, any excuse we have, so we would do that over, politics, election stuff, just to demystify it a little bit, and also like hold friends and stuff accountable. Like for most of my life have been committed to the idea of voting. There was like a time when I was here, when I was like, it doesn't really matter. But the older I got and the more I understood like the implication of what not voting does, and how many people have fought for the right to be able to vote. I took more pride in the idea. So in 2008, when Obama was first on the ballot, I remember walking into the polling office, doing my vote, turn around, and there's this old black guy there. And he like stood there and like shook my hand. And it was kind of the surreal generational moment. Because I'm sure growing up for him, he was like, we're never going to see a black president, right?
Of course.
And like him holding that and then also sharing in the handshake and the camaraderie of that moment, it was really powerful. And I was like, oh, this does matter. And like that kind of got me more committed to like, right, whatever you believe, left, right, liberal, conservative, it is important to express your views in how you vote, because it makes a difference. It does matter what provisions get passed, what you get taxed on, where the money gets spent. And I like the way California is pretty transparent about what that information is too.
Yeah, I mean that book, I have not gone through all of it. I have not. It's just so damn much. But I do love. I feel like that's a beautiful movie moment when you're talking about the older gentleman when he was whatnot. He grew up black. He's like, this is never going to happen. He had a I think and this is, you can totally shoot me down for this, but I think the experience of being black has gotten far better since his time. But like, he had it so rough, and then these things were impossible. Like a lot of things that he's probably seeing today, billionaire black men or lawyers and this and that, was probably like much less a president. We're talking like owners of big businesses, international companies, CEOs, many celebrities, Emmys, Oscars, all that kind of stuff, like was probably unimaginable to him at our age.
Well, there's been shifts, right? It is like some stuff is new, but some stuff stays the same. Got all the protests in June with the killing of George Floyd. Like, so while some things are different, some things haven't changed. And I think that's why you will see, I believe, more turnout for younger people as well this year, because there's an understanding that, oh no, what is it? Obama's quote, it's not even his quote, but like progress, history tends towards progress, right? But it's always a fight, right? Things don't just happen and they stay that way. You have to continue to re-educate and rededicate as generations go by. So yeah, for sure, definitely, I'm sure there's this, like, for him, he sees the change, and having a black man on the ballot change that. But then you have, still income inequality, imprisonment inequality, police brutality inequality, like all these things that are still kind of triggering for him. And so, yeah, Obama being that symbol of hope, I think definitely added to that cinematic moment, because it did feel like a movie. I
Oh
walk out,
yeah.
we played, we shook hands. Yeah, it was
Like
epic.
it's almost like, I feel like he's almost like passing the torch to you. Like, all right, I did my sentence. I don't know how old the guy was. Let's, for the sake of argument, 90 years old. He did his 90 years. Now he's like, Daren, time for you to put in a good 90, and that's beautiful.
And it's a sense of responsibility. So like when we like first talked about this idea, there is a sense of responsibility that I feel, not just to vote, but also to speak vocally about, even like you're doing a political
Mm-hmm.
TV show or movie, don't know which one, but like that story, you infuse it with your beliefs and your thoughts. Ideally, I can't, I'm
Oh,
excited to read it.
I mean, I'm pretty open. I kind of don't make people happy on the right, and I don't make people happy on the left for a lot of my a lot of my views, because it seems like now today it's like do or die. Your team blue, your team red. That's it. If you're one thing off, you're a dirty Nazi, and both sides are coming to the Nazi. And like if you don't agree with me, then we're not even friends anymore. Like I don't care what family. I don't care if you've been there for me. And I was talking to somebody else, like been there for we've been friends for 20 years, 30 years, whatever. You changed my tire at 4 a.m. in the morning. You like saved me from a burning building, whatever it may be. It's like, what? You thought about voting for Trump? What? You thought about voting for Biden? No, we're done. Everything about you is, your whole character is deleted just because of this one thing, which I think is insane.
I don't know where that came from or where it started. Like it feels like we've lost the ability for discourse.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, maybe because sports have made, the idea of teams and polarization popular, but like this idea of us versus them, it's not new though, right? I do feel like that's partly how even this country was founded, right?
Mm-hmm.
The wealthy, us, the landowners versus the non-wealthy people, them, right? How do we keep them in check? Now it's, I don't know how equitable you want to define what, right versus left. There's wealthy participants on both sides, but this idea of polarization has been a part of our politics. And you talk about traveling, the idea of coalition building isn't something we really have in this country, right? Democrats do more so than Republicans, but this idea of like, you look at Israel, you look at almost any other parliament style government, you have to form a coalition. You may be one, but you still have to fill out the other seats. We don't really have that here with two parties. It's blue or red, and that's it. And so
because everybody else can't afford to hang out at the party because they can't afford the dinner plate. Like it's absurd how much money is sent outside of just taxes that is donated by, of course, big corporations and whatnot. And of course, whoever's writing you the biggest check. I mean, just like when me and you were making movies and this and that, like kind of the biggest voice that you listen to is your EP because, well, they put up the money or they found the money or whatever. So they kind of swing the biggest dick in the room. Let's be honest. Like,
you wouldn't be there without them. So
no,
obviously you have to be beholden to them. Yeah, but get the money out of politics. Like, right, we talk about politics, right? For me, if we limited how our even election cycles went, like, right, I think in the UK, it's on, I'm going to misquote this so bad, but it is a limited time, right? Like 3 months.
People can Google it. They can be enough lazy ass people here in America. If you want to Google it, you can say, hey guys, double check me, Google it, and they can do it. They can get off their lazy ass and do it.
Because it's shorter than ours, right? It's like 6 months or 3 months, and it's limited. This is the only time you can campaign. And then 3 months later, done, good night, move on to the next thing. There's not enough time to spend $100 million on a campaign that isn't going to go anywhere. So if we can take money out of our political system, we can focus on, look, I'm an idealist sometimes, but we can focus on actually helping our country be successful and move forward without politicizing stupid stuff like masks. Like, right? It's so, you can't say anything without it becoming this like entrenched fight.
Oh yeah. I don't understand. Like, I think the biggest thing, and another reason why I started this podcast was just for like what's listed in my description is civil conversations. How do you expect to have an ally? How do you expect to move someone from their position, whether that's your goal or not, unless you can go like, oh, here's my experiences. Here's what I see. What do you see? Okay, let's question that. Let's blah, blah, blah. Like, I remember that used to be conversations we had. Like, I grew up with a bunch of Black friends. Like, I have I think as far as a non-Black man can have, a solid understanding for a certain subset of the Black community. Not everybody had the same experience, everybody, whatnot. But like, I grew up with it, opposed to somebody in some middle-class suburb town who had like never seen a Black person until they drove down to Atlanta. You know what I mean? Like, I would never fully understand, but the goal is to try. You know,
Yeah,
but I think a lot of people don't do that.
yeah. Well, I wonder how much that idea of empathy, right? Empathy isn't
Mm-hmm.
something that we learn in school. So
Mm-hmm.
where do we learn empathy from, right? And
Parents,
you
hopefully.
know, where?
Family, parents, I would hope.
Family, parents, but like, where do they get it from, right? This is like this idea of like culture and ritual,
Mm-hmm.
right? We learn things from our parents. So if our parents don't have a concept of empathy, a concept of, oh, try to put yourself in someone else's shoes,
Mm-hmm.
then how does the kid embrace and learn that? I don't know. I'm trying. For me, part of it is like religion, right? Religion teaches empathy,
Religion could. Okay.
right? And I
Sure.
definitely say our country feels more secular than it has in the past,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I wonder if that has something to do with this lack of it, or also the desire for independent wealth, like right, the American dream. If I work hard, I can have this thing. The American dream doesn't really talk about empathy, right? It really talks about what I do for myself.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be something that's like foundationally structured in the culture of America, right? I lived in Japan for a year,
Yeah.
right? And in Japan, there is this sense of community, collective oneness, right? This
Oh, yes. Yeah.
community, we're all responsible,
I was there for about 2 years. I get you. But continue.
right?
Keep going. For the folks that
We
have,
don't,
keep going.
that's a cultural like
Mhm.
foundation. We don't really have that in America where it's community first. It's me first. And then
Mhm.
once I get mine, maybe I'll help you.
Yeah, in Japan, you'll rarely ever hear a cell phone ring because they even like on the train, anywhere, it's on silent because their whole philosophy is like trying not to uh brazen someone else's life. Like
Impose.
they don't want to bump you, they don't want to this, they don't want to that. Like it's so crazy how much they focus on just like the respect of others. They were wearing masks before it was political. They did it just because I don't want to spread my cold. You know,
Because
and you're jam
that's
packed on trains like
collective
cartoons.
responsibility. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's huge
It's
there.
insane how much they care about each other.
So how do we get there? Right? Because there is something
Mhm.
like that we're both identifying as
Mhm.
valuable in that culture. Can that be a part of American culture, right? You're trying with this
Mhm.
podcast to extend out and have these civil conversations. So
Mhm.
you're desiring it. How do we get there though?
I think it's got to start like there's two things that I think is big on almost everything. I always reference everything to branding. What does it look like and why does it look like that? And then also coming from teaching, whether it's racism, whether it's respect, whether it's whatever, I believe the good and the bad, the victor and the victimization is inherited as taught because no one knows they're in a shitty situation unless you tell them constantly, you know, but they may grow of it, but they may fight, they may get out of it. You know, someone may be told they can defeat anything that steps in front of them. So they believe they can eventually. You know, in
Yeah.
Japan, to reference why I think they're so respectful is because even as kids, they take on jobs where like they clean their school. They're little kids and there's no janitor really. There's one person who's kind of ahead of it, but it's like kids cleaning the school. There's kids helping out with lunch, doing classroom duties, like, and it changes every week or month or however each school is set up. And I find that incredible. That's a good side of it. The bad side though is sometimes the ranking system in Japan, and my Japanese is rusty now, but there's a word with multiple ranks for everybody, whether they're below you, above you, big sister, little sister, you know, grandmother, great grand, you know, all that, and you respect them in different levels. Even if someone at your boss, there's like boss, you know, bigger boss, bit about like boom, and it's like how much you bow, how everything. So you can sometimes even certain people can be a dick and be like, oh, you're lesser because you're this rank and I'm this rank at work or at school or at whatever. So bullying's different there,
Sure.
you know. So there's a good and a bad, but it's
Oh, for sure. No society is perfect, but like, what can we pull? Once we build the new union,
mhm.
what do we pull from everything that we've learned? Because I mean,
Man.
I was joking with my buddy about this, and we were talking about like right in the founding of America, somebody left one country, was like, we need to
Mhm.
start something someplace else, right?
Mhm.
We're gonna have these ideas. And our founding fathers had a lot of really interesting ideas about how to structure a new society.
Mhm.
So like, you know, I joke about it, but like, I do want to hold certain ideals up for like, this is what I value in a society. And like you said, and I think you're right with education. I want to teach my kids how. I wrote down responsibility. You're
Mhm.
talking about the chores, the work ethic. You're instilling a sense of responsibility outside of what one's normal task is in those like assigning
Mhm.
jobs. So I think that's huge for sure.
Oh yeah, and it doesn't matter if you came from a rich family or this or that. You know what I mean? You're doing those jobs like that. What does it matter what side of town you're on? Doesn't whatnot. And I think that, granted, there's public schools and this, and they probably have the rich socialite schools and whatnot like we have here in America. But I just think that is incredible. Like
Certain
that's a
countries
huge thing.
also, yeah, certain countries also force military service, right?
Mhm.
So like you go and like that seems like an interesting concept where everyone at 18, doesn't matter where you're from, doesn't matter your socioeconomic background, you get in the ideal, you get put with people from all over the place.
Mhm.
Like for me, it was going to college, right? Going to college was a big expanding of my world and understanding of people and how to communicate. Because I was then forced to communicate people with people vastly different from what I'd grown up with.
Mhm.
And that, and each step that I took further from home, I had to gain those skills of how to converse with different kinds of people. And I think that's
Mhm.
important. When we travel, right? I think travel
Mhm.
limits our ability to have empathy. And education, I think, yeah, I do want to harken on education because that's huge. Because you look at someplace like Germany, right?
Mhm.
Germany after World War II, they talked about the Holocaust like it was such a part of
Mhm.
their identity that they could accept it and now move past it. But America is not very good at looking at its past with an objective lens and saying, oh, no, what we did was all like the fact that we can't talk about slavery in this country without
Mhm.
people getting uncomfortable is interesting how quickly Germans got over World War II, and we still in America are struggling with the concept and the impact and implications of slavery.
I think just we're so emotional about it. I think that's the problem, is where, like, to have a civil conversation, you have to pull away a certain amount of emotion. Don't delete it. Not it's still there. It's still here.
Yeah.
You're just holding it here for a second to be able to control and have thoughts and this and that, and then go, this still feels shitty. Like, no, I can't think I don't know anybody that's like, yay, slavery, but it was,
But like
you have
it's
to
like, oh,
dissect
slavery.
it. Yeah. You have to dissect it, analyze it. Like, what is the saying? You can't solve that problem unless you like identify the problem, but it's a cleaner saying than that. But it's basically, you have to look at it, face it, acknowledge it, dissect it, solve it. Like, you're never going to understand the good, the bad, I mean, I've had crazy, like, people debate me on Facebook about slavery and this and that.
Oh, don't debate
Just,
on Facebook, man.
no, I get caught up just because sometimes people say like the dumbest shit, or they're very hypocritical, and they blame like all of this or all of one person or da da da. Like, one guy said, like, not to dive too deep into it, but like, he was like, well, France, U.S. paid reparations to Jews in the Holocaust and da da da. And I'm like, he sends me an article, okay, and
Okay.
it's I wish I could remember where the article was from, but basically it was the French government gave a bunch of money to the US government to then give to these lists of certain people in America. And I'm like, well, no, that's not the
Mm,
US giving it. That's
yeah.
France apologizing for their war crimes and giving it to America, just saying, hey, can you go hand this money out? That's like saying that, your Uber Eats person made your food.
Yeah.
No, the restaurant made it. They're just a delivery person. Thank you, but they don't get credit for how delicious that hamburger or steak or whatever is.
Nothing to
You
do
know,
with it.
no. So, like, it's just the craziness and like the emotion people attach to things. They don't want to dig deep in. Like, I think this election, 2016 was the same thing. I think it's been doubled down now, and it's even more emotional, and people are using branding to do so. Like, I want to dive into this topic. I think Trump, for example, why he's doing so well and why he's winning, and I mean well as in a rating system of why he won the first election and whatnot, was because he's not playing the same political games. And I don't know if I coined this phrase or not, but I hope I did. He's a mud monster. And I say that, and here's why I say mud monster, because you already knew everything about Trump when he stepped to the table: the good, the bad, the ex-wives, the this, the that, the whatever, right? The shows, the him firing people, the, some business things, whatnot. Okay. So he had like, his cup was cracked or tarnished or whatnot, right?
Yeah.
But then you have these politicians who have had these PR teams and whatnot their whole life in politics, where you don't even know the real them. You just know the presented version of them. They have their image is cleaned up, their Christian whole family, da da da. So then you find out one bad thing. They took one selfie, or they, whatnot, and boom, career's over. But you couldn't do that with Trump. You find out a new bad thing about him, you leak a video of, grab him by the pussy or whatever, you throw it at him, it just goes bing, like we kind of already knew that. Women threw themselves at him when he was younger because he's a rich billionaire. And that happens because some people out there want to take a shortcut in life and like, look, if I can just bang a billionaire, bang, I'm good. But politicians have that. No, so go ahead. What?
I said, you know any billionaires?
Shoot, if I did, I wouldn't be doing this podcast.
Right?
No. I just think that's a huge advantage for him because he can do and say and be his true self because that's what we're used to. But Hillary couldn't be her true self. Ted Cruz couldn't be his true self. Nobody could,
And I think it also worked for him the first time because we're in a time now in politics where we don't like politicians. I think that I don't know when this shifted, but like Obama won the first time because he was an outsider. Like he ran on the idea that I'm not like your politicians that get stuck in Washington. So like the country at large is tired of the idea of what Washington is. And we can place blame wherever we want for that. But our country has wanted the outsider more often than not. So Obama won twice. And then you have the outsider in Trump and the insider in Clinton. And look, Clinton, because of her long career, there was a lot to kind of pick her apart about. And I think Trump being an outsider in her long career hurt both. I think her also being a woman.
You could attack his politics because he paid her a lot of times. He gave money to the Clintons. He gave money to like whatnot. So it's like you couldn't attack his, like Biden, 47 years of failure, quote unquote, that people are saying. You can't take that angle on Trump. You can only bitch about his last 4 years, if anything.
Yeah, but I do think, I don't know if that same kind of Teflon suiting he had for 2016 is working in 2020. I think he did a good job then. Now, because we have a record of him, and people are pointing to the pandemic or whatever his policies are, I don't know if he's going to have the same resilience for 2020.
Yeah, I agree. I think he doesn't have he's like not as Teflon. Like he definitely, there's some weakness in the armor that you can get stuff through because of COVID, because of the pandemic. Like I don't really see any president having a good time. Like this would suck for any president. If Obama had to deal with this, that would suck. Clinton had to deal with it, sucked. Biden, JFK, whoever, this would suck. This would not be a good deal because one death is too many, all that. And anybody would use it to politically attack the other for sure.
Yeah, it is a weapon to be used in any political situation. Yeah, no, but like the pandemic, again, we're sitting not together in a space, we're in our separate Zooms. So like the pandemic has just turned everything upside down. I don't envy anybody in politics that has to deal with the crap that they're dealing with right now because it's nuts. It's insane.
But my benefit is the paychecks no matter what, the healthcare taken care of no matter what, no pre-existing conditions or anything like that. Their job is guaranteed. They're recession proof. If you want to not ever worry about ever not getting paid, become a senator or higher, join the House, join Congress. You never have to worry for you and your family, no healthcare, and you're going to make approximately $185,000 a year at least, guaranteed.
Not a bet. But like it's funny. I feel like older generations, the idea of working for the government was something that people romanticized, right? And maybe it's like, I'm not around. I grew up in DC, right? I'm not around that anymore because I have a lot of friends that work for the government. My grandmother worked for the government.
It was patriotism. Like there was a lot of patriotism. And I think because we were so closed off to other countries and we weren't as like social media, you can just like in a second meet people from all over the world. Then it was like us together huddled in this cave, that massive cave that is the United States, versus the world that's maybe trying to get us, whatnot. And it was us versus them. And now it's like, everybody else ain't that bad,
But also, like, I think people had pride, patriotism for sure. I think that's definitely part of it. But also, we looked at our government as stable. Like, right, want a good check, go work for the government. Like, there will always be government jobs. But I don't hear, like, my little brothers aren't talking about, we're gonna work for the government. Like, now I think we've all.
Everybody's trying to get famous on YouTube. That's TikTok. That's it. Like, what do you want to do for a living? I want to get famous on TikTok. Like, okay, but what are you going to do? Just get famous. Like, what about a talent? Oh, I'm fresh out of that, but I want to get famous.
Oh, no. I don't work with kids exclusively. I hope that's not what the kids are saying.
That is mostly what the kids are saying. Me working with kids and teaching kids and, it's It's still out there. But I'm sorry, your brother. Sorry, I just wanted to get a sad part of,
No. Like
people just a few years younger than us. They're different goals. But go ahead.
I hope they're a subset and not the majority. I hope that is minority. Because like what is what does the future look like if we disengage from government, right? We're talking about election, we're talking about politics. I don't know. I don't know what that looks like. We'll see how people turn out on election day for what the future of the country looks like. But I don't know. I don't see. I wonder how much you see activism and political excitement in the young people that you work with, because I feel like our generation. And again, I can't even speak at a whole. I look at just my friend group. Like, how active do you feel like the young vote is going to be?
I think they're pretty active on social media. Like, it's really, which I call cheap activism, in all fairness. Like, hey, get out there and do something. That's great. But it's, I don't know. I have a struggle when like for example, me and a friend were talking about this recently. He wanted me to do a whole episode about it. So I'll just probably ruin that and talk about it now. But the whole post a black square on Tuesday deal on Instagram. Okay. I get the idea of it. Hey, let's filter out all the, food pictures and the, OnlyFans pictures and all this, right? Just so then we can get good knowledge out. Okay. But and that's great. That's beautiful. Let's get facts out there, whatnot, information, good information. The problem that I have with it, a lot of people used that as like, I did my part. I'm good. Like I posted a black square. I'm justified, and I never have to do anything again. No, put your money where your mouth is. Go out and do something different. Go. You don't have to necessarily donate to somebody. If you know somebody who's struggling nearby, go help them. Make them a sandwich. Give them money. Whatever it may be. But like just posting up a black square, I don't really think you did anything. I'm sorry. Like that's just my view. But do it.
I agree with you, man. No, I agree. Like that's the first step, right? That's nice that you want to publicly, but you're right. Social media makes it really simple and easy to feel like you are participating in something. I think that's like
just cheap and lazy. Like how many people did 22 push-ups, but for veterans of PTSD, but couldn't donate $10 to an organization, or couldn't, I don't know what all the vet opportunity like stuff is out there, like opportunities, but who couldn't just go and do that?
Well, it's that was where you're talking about, that kind of level of commitment, that putting yourself outside of your comfort zone to learn and educate. I will say that I've had more conversations about race and history and America as a society this year than I have since maybe college, right? So like there are more people that are willing to have the conversation. Look, my hope is that 2020 continues the movement of kind of breaking out of silence, right? Let's have the conversations. Let's be uncomfortable. I love that you're challenging people to come out and have a civil discourse and maybe disagree about something, but still being able to have that conversation. I'm hopeful that we are in this movement where that is more possible. The work is going to be to continue, because you're talking about, I'm working on a historical drama right now, and it's set around the 60s. And I look at the 60s and I look at now, and there's so many parallels to what's going on, even down to Trump talking about law and order, right? That was Nixon back in the 60s. Nixon won on law and order, and they're going to tear down the suburbs, like verbatim, the same language and rhetoric. Wow. Every summer, starting in like 63, 64, there were riots in Detroit, Chicago, so there's so much that is similar. And so my question was, well, what happened? Why are we still having the same conversations about equal pay, police brutality, right? The same exact conversations 50, 60 years later. Something happened. And I think it's kind of what you're speaking to, is this disconnect or this malaise, like, right? All right, I protested in the 60s, I'm good now. But that lineage, that handshake we talked about with that older African-American male in the polling station, that passing of the torch, I think the torch got fumbled somewhere, right? We all, the boom in the 90s made everybody fat and happy. And, maybe we let go of our guard, but we're back in a similar situation. I mean, again, talking about the pandemic, me and my wife are talking about buying a home, right? what does it take to buy a home? But housing is so expensive, especially in California.
Oh,
And the pandemic is hitting, people aren't working. You're going to
yeah.
see, they keep talking about, read article after article about when evictions are going to start hitting, and they already
Yeah.
have.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
look, it's gonna happen hard here. Like it's gonna that's this whole amendum thing, because here's the thing is evictions gonna happen. They're gonna happen fast. They're gonna happen so strong because okay, if the government really cared about renters, cared about business owners, cared about whatever, they could easily went, hey guys, let's put a pause on mortgages. Let's put a pause on rents. Let's put a pause. Because like, even though, like, I mean, I'm paying rent, I know that if we weren't, say we all weren't in the complex, if we weren't, our owner would still have a mortgage probably. I'm assuming it's not paid off, but let's assume this is a building that's not paid off. They would have to still pay.
On the hook.
And all of a sudden they're coming out of buku amount of money, and now they can default, but we can't. Like that's crappy. It's crappy for both parties, in essence. So they're going to get theirs. It's just, and we still have to pay the money. I know a lot of people who aren't even trying to pay rent because they think it's going to get forgiven. If they haven't forgiven student loans, they're not forgiving rent. They are not forgiving rent. If you guys are out there and not paying rent, don't fall for that. Don't. That's a trap.
Yeah. It's a trap. Do what you can. Like, I know some people can't, but if you can, don't. If you have the money, pay your rent.
Pay something. Try, because you owe that money. Landlord's gonna come after you. I don't care what it is, but it's just a weird branding thing. Like, again, branding. It's the mislead, the whatnot that people have. Like with the whole pandemic politics.
I vote, though, right? I put people in office to make sure that crises, I'm not drastically affected by crises. Mm-hmm. And this is a big one. And it seems like our government just keeps running into a door and can't figure it out because it's coming and it's going to be bad.
I don't think this is Biden or Trump or any politician. I don't think any politician, I'm going to say this into camera to make sure it's direct. I don't think any politician will ever solve a problem that doesn't directly affect them. Or if it doesn't affect them, it has to come with a nice, beautiful gift basket they get for solving said problem. And if it doesn't come with that massive thing, whether it's public clout, whether it's tons of money, whether it's a beautiful exit strategy once they leave office, they're not going to do it. Okay, period. And I'll speak to that. It's going to be like, for example, medical. It's never going to be a lot better of a medical system in our country because all politicians, theirs is paid for. Their whole family's taken care of. They don't pay a dime. Pre-existing condition, all that, nothing. Same with pay income. Their pay increases every year. And even if they shut down, think about this as a business. If you think America is a business, politicians, if they don't even do a budget, if they don't figure it out and they just want to fight amongst each other, they still get paid. No matter what. All of Congress, all the House, senators, all that, they still get. So we're talking millions and millions and millions, tens of, not hundreds, probably hundreds of millions of dollars just still getting spent paying these people to not do their job.
Nothing. Yeah.
What other business do you know? What other job does anybody have out there where you get paid to not do the job that you've been hired to do? Where?
Very, very few. Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right.
I can't name one. We're both smart guys. I can't name one. Can you name one?
No, I can't.
I know they'll shut. If we had a business right now, they shut us down. I mean, you can't pay rent, they kick you out. Yeah, so it's going to be, we can't go $17 trillion or whatever it is in debt. I mean, 15, 14, 13, 17, whatever it is. I don't even care.
Yeah, it's a big number.
Yeah, it's a big imaginary freaking number anyways. But it's, our shops get closed down. Business evicted. They would run in and take all of our stuff. Tax auctions, like dunzo. What? They don't have that assurance. Like that might be the safest job, period. That's why they're the hustlers. They're the best.
Yeah, they hustle. But like, right, it is the election, right? That's the only way we can get them out. And we hope that we have enough information about the person to make that judgment come 4 years later.
But the only person that comes out, like, for example, there was other people. I'm not a massive Biden fan for multiple reasons. I think the Democrats if they wanted to beat Trump, I personally don't think it's going to be Biden that's going to beat him. But they had tons of other good. I don't think Biden's going to beat him. I really don't. I mean, he's going to win California. I'll be very surprised if California goes red because it's a 2-1, Democrat to Republican here with I think it's like 10% or something like that. Other party, libertarian or whatever. But I think if they would have done like, I was a fan of Tulsi Gabbard. I liked her. I think she would have had a great shot if she had the chance to be seen as much. But the problem is like the Democratic Party shut down so many people. They swiped Bernie again. You know, I wasn't a
Oh,
massive Bernie
I
fan,
don't
but I
feel
liked
that
Bernie
way.
more than Biden.
I don't think no. Yeah, Tulsi no, because she's a woman. I still think America has a sexist problem. Like I
Mhm.
don't know it. Even when they were talking
Even
about
with Kamala,
college,
because I feel like that was kind of a pull, like a kind of a Biden was like, look, I know you don't like me, but here, let me choose like an ethnic woman and bang. Do you like me now? Huh? I'm kind of hiding this, kind of get to
but
you vote for it?
Biden's primary run was revitalized by African Americans. Like the black community came. That's the only reason he resuscitated. Was when he went to the
Really?
South. Yeah, yeah. The black people love Biden.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah,
That
big.
surprises me.
Yeah,
Why?
yeah.
Is it
Obama.
because of corn pop? Is it because of corn pop?
Obama chosen.
Oh,
I
okay, gotcha. Corn pop. You haven't heard the corn pop thing? Oh yeah.
no,
Oh, it's a Biden was telling a story about. I think the guy's name was like corn pop. It's just a silly story that is just funny where he was trying to like relate with the common man kind of deal, and it was just a really silly story.
he's
I,
old. He's old. We forgive him. But yeah,
I
no, the black community is what revitalized the Biden campaign because Bernie was crushing. Bernie won
Mhm.
the first caucus and the first primary, and he was about to sweep, but I think it was South Carolina that turned it around and then like had this sweep and Biden won. So like him electing Kamala to me was an acknowledgement. It's like I wouldn't be here without the African American
I mean,
community.
I feel like he's trying to refresh his black card by pulling Kamala back on there. I
But
might be saying her
Kamala,
name wrong, and I apologize if I am. Kamala,
I say Kamala.
Kamala.
I've
Okay,
not heard the Kamala Harris. That's
okay.
but yeah,
No
but like
disrespect if I'm saying it wrong. I just don't know. I just don't know.
she's
But
not
I
in the zeit. She's not there yet. But after this, she will be a known quantity.
because so do you think here's a question. Here's a question. I just thought of it. I don't necessarily believe it, but I'm wondering if it's a thing. Do you think Biden is riding off the coattails of Obama's blackness? Like a little bit. And then now he's like lost a bit of it. And then he's like, wait, let me strengthen my blackness and bringing back Kamala.
I don't know if I would. I don't know if it's as overt as the question is,
Yeah.
but every politician, especially if you're a vice president, you have the choice, right? Do you
Yeah.
associate with the last administration? Or are you saying that you're going to be different? Because Obama was so popular, Biden politically made the choice of I'm going to attach myself to Obama, ride or die, because
Yeah.
he is so popular.
Which is a smart play. Branding wise, branding again, that's a smart play.
Because right, Obama built a pretty big coalition for him to win twice. Young people, old people, suburban white people, non-college graduate white. Like he built a coalition of people that believed in him. And so Biden, being the smart politician that he, 47 years did him something. He's been doing something right.
Yeah.
He is using that, and Kamala does boost that. But she's also the highest profile kind of female because he said, female vice president. He guaranteed that once he was winning. But if you look at it, you had Elizabeth Warren, you had Amy Klobuchar, Tulsi, you had all these women, Stacey Abrams. But like Kamala she's in the Senate, right? So she's a known quantity. She's black, and she was a prosecutor for a large state. So I think her intangibles were more palatable than if he were to have gone with even an Elizabeth Warren, an all-white ticket right now, especially with everything going on, isn't as appealing to.
I think I get that. I think I just have a problem with everything being so race and gender driven. Like everything is less about the policy, less about the person, less about the whatever. It's like, oh, it's a black woman. Oh, it's a woman. Oh, it's blah, blah, or they're gay, or they're this, or they're that. It's like, great, that we're going to go with that. Opposed to like, let's talk about the character of the person. Let's talk about their past actions. Let's whatnot, which is, you have a ton to shit on Trump about. Don't get me wrong. There's so much. Just Twitter alone gives plenty of information, but talk about the past. But I'm saying like, I'm just so tired, me personally, of hearing like, let's vote for race. Let's vote for sex. I would love a woman president. I'm totally cool with that. I don't care. I personally wouldn't care if the best person, and this is a job, president, whatever, was a trained monkey or a robot or a whatever. I couldn't care less as long as whoever, whatever was best for the job. I don't care what it looks like.
And that ideal is great. And I think that's what, as a country, we should always strive for. But that doesn't feel like the reality that we're in right now with even the opportunity to get to that stage, right? To even before you become president or not a nominee for president, you have to have the kind of career and opportunities to get you to that place. So like the idea of, I don't know if we've ever in this country had a time where the idea of race or religion even, like, right, it was there's only been one other Catholic president, and it was Kennedy, right? And there was this weirdness around, well, who is the president going to follow? Is he going to follow the Pope, or is he going to follow the American people? So like there's always been this tension around who you serve, right? And if you are of a minority group, the fear of the majority is you'll be more beholden to them. You know, that's why Obama did not overtly stake his presidency on being black, like, right? Because he knew that would limit his prospects too much.
I think everybody did it for him. That was the thing, I think, because because we're here in California, in the bubble that is California, like first black president, I'm voting for him because he's going to be the first black president. And that's an amazing achievement. You know what I mean? Like that's, for example, I, again, can only imagine what it feels like to see that when being told that's never going to happen probably most of my life. You know what I mean? Yeah. I can only imagine. I'm probably not even close to being able to understand that, you know, and I'll admit that all day. But I almost feel like too, some people voted that route to be like, oh, I'm not sick, I'm not racist. Here you go. You know?
Sure.
And he wasn't, I don't think he was a horrible president by any means. I mean, I don't agree with like, of course I don't agree with tons of things that all people do. You know what I mean? There's always disagreements, but I don't know. I feel like it's so much about race now, especially since 2016. I feel like it wasn't as bad for Obama. Like but then when Hillary lost, it got like way worse. I mean, there was bad things for Obama. Don't get me wrong. I saw you.
Yeah.
Like you were like, no, he didn't have like a happy joy skipping through the, field with, a basket of flowers and Blue Jays on his shoulder. No, it wasn't like that at all. But it was like like, for example, Hillary, their campaign was almost like when Trump started to win, now all of a sudden Trump became a racist. Now all of a sudden he said a sexist. Now, if he ever had a good zinger on her, then it became mansplaining. Then it became, he didn't respect women. Then and it was like, hold on, you have a million things to actually trash the dude about, but you're like going on this new stuff to try to shame and guilt people into voting. And it worked for some, it worked for a good bit.
But he's not
good enough.
All those things feel true with his past, right? But I don't know. Race to me has always been, it's not particularly an American issue, but like even from the founding of the country, this idea of race has been a part of our political structure. And I think, again, the ideal, if you are the best qualified person, don't go for that, get that opportunity. But there is something to be said for if you start in a place that you don't have the same opportunities, someone has to open that door. Someone has to allow for that opportunity to let you in. If it's been an exclusive club the entire time, right? Presidency has been a white boys club, right?
Yeah.
Exclusively. Yeah. And so now you got the first black person, and now we start to see our country, right? Look, Elizabeth Warren. Let's speak to women, right? Because I liked Elizabeth Warren. I like any person with a plan, and she had a plan for freaking everything. So I was down with that. But I feel like women do get kind of graded on a different curve than men do, just because of how we view and perceive roles for people. This is how, Michael, as a white guy, this is how you're supposed to respond and act. You have black friends, you speak slang, black slang. Ooh, that's uncomfortable for me, right? People perceive you and put an identity on you, and it becomes the more challenging for you to overcome that without hard work and grace. So like when you look at Obama, I liked what he's represented, not just because he was black, but like because he was young, because he used social media different, like, right? He's he's the precursor to Trump, right? Trump like took it to the next level, but Obama was kind of the first president that really used social media, rightly so. It boomed along with him.
And I just want to note, he had some damn good swag. I'll give him that. Like since Clinton, like a lot of people joked that Clinton was the closest thing to a black president we had for the longest, Bill Clinton, and then Obama, bang. But like that was, he was a suave dude. I mean, still is. Like I'm mad like he disappeared. No, he's around. He's around. He's got a Netflix deal. He's doing great. Yeah. He's such a he's swaggerific, if you will, just so smooth.
And the president to me is like, I like the representation. I want to pick somebody that I want to hang out with. And I think that's always been kind of the political, like I
That's
think
our whole,
Bush
that's our whole
one.
business is we want to, because we're spending 12 hours, 14 hours a day with people. We want to enjoy their company for all that time.
Yeah. And that's why Bush won, right? Bush won because people said, oh, I feel like I can have a beer with him. Whereas Al Gore was really like stuffy and
Mm-hmm.
not approachable, right? I
Mm-hmm.
think that idea of like, yo, I love to chill with that dude. I think that's part of why we choose our presidents.
Mm. I feel like
Uh,
Bush was like that D student that barely passed because his father donated a lot of money to the school and like hung out with all the cool kids because his dad gave all the money to the school. And that's how he became president. So that's a lesson for everybody out there. You could probably be a D or an F student, but as long as your family's rich and well connected, you got a
good to
shot
go.
to be president. So get out there.
Oh, no, not anymore. Not anymore. We're changing that. We want the young and talented and bright minds to go.
Dude, I want the young, and I'm sorry to interrupt. I know I've been jumping you a little bit and I apologize. The
Oh,
young
no.
bit is a huge one for me because I think a lot of these people want to use the word systems and this and that have been in play for so long. Unless we get these old career politicians out